Nigel Farage.
Thank you. To ask His Majesty's Government to give us an update on the situation with regards to the Diego Garcia American military base and the British Indian overseas territories, especially in the light of the recent comments of the American President.
Minister.
I can assure this House nothing in the treaty has changed since the US administration gave their original endorsement of the deal, and we continue to work with Mauritius and the United States. Mr. Speaker, the UK government has great sympathy for the Chagosian community. They feel a deep emotional connection with these islands. We have been clear in our regrets for the manner in which Chagosians were forcibly removed from the islands in the 60s and the 70s. We're working to resume a programme of heritage visits for members of that community. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with both Mauritius and the United States on this agreement. As the Prime Minister has said, we have very close relations with the United States. That relationship matters profoundly, not just to our security, but to the prosperity and the stability that people here at home depend.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the situation in America has changed, as you know. The British government went around America and said a whole load of things, such as it was legally necessary to give away the Chagos Islands, which of course wasn't true. Do not give away Diego Garcia. Capital letters from the American president. He likes capital letters in his posts. And all the other arguments have been well rehearsed. The fact that it could cost us up to $50 billion. The fact that the Chagosians weren't just badly treated then, they're being badly treated now because they resettled Ile-de-Quoi and they've got eviction notices from your government. But I can tell you this from my trip to the Maldives at the weekend. Something I hadn't realised, and I don't know whether the government knows it either. It is the Maldives that has the historical links with the Chagos Islands, both in terms of trade, in terms of archaeology. In fact, the islands, all the French did was rename the islands from the Maldivian language. There is no basis, historically, culturally, in any way, for Mauritius to have a claim on those islands. And the Maldives are upset for two reasons. One, there has been great stability in this region for decades. And what happens with this treaty, if it goes through, is you finish up with a turf war going on between India and China in the region, and that, indeed, has already started. And I wish to inform the government that we are just a few days away, in my opinion, from the Maldives issuing a counterclaim to the International Court of Justice to say if anybody has the right to the sovereignty of those islands, it is the Maldives and not Mauritius. And I would urge you to pause all of this.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for Clacton suggests that we have gone around the American government. I have set out already in my response the extensive talks that we have had with both secretaries and indeed the President of the United States within recent months on this question. There is no question of going around the US government. The honourable member says, well, what has changed? Clearly, the view of the United States President may well have changed, but the treaty has not. We have discussed this treaty in great detail in this House. It is a treaty that emerges from talks initiated by the previous government and completed. Mr. Speaker, I would find it more plausible to hear chuntering from the benches on the other side from me were I not a diplomat in the Foreign Office during the period they were negotiating this deal for 11 rounds. I do understand that the members opposite, honourable and right honourable, wish to now distance themselves from the 11 rounds that they conducted, but let us at least...
Order. No, one of us is sitting down, don't we? Look, people have put a UQ in. Others, members of this side, want to hear it. I want to hear it. I expect them to hear it. I expect them to hear it in silence. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Returning to the substance of the honourable member's question, I would just like to remind him that if he turned up with a selfie stick to RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire, a similarly sensitive military base, he would be turned away. I do not understand his surprise, or those who travelled with him, that when you sought over the weekend to film a video on a sensitive military site under the control of the UK. It is part of the British Indian overseas territories, as you know, and I would encourage the honourable member and indeed every member of the public to check British travellers.
Order. You keep saying you. I am absolutely not responsible about this filming or the involvement. Please. I'm being drawn into something I don't wish to be at this stage.
Mr. Speaker, I can only apologise. I would not seek to draw you into such a flagrant incident of ignoring travel advice. The treaty is as it was signed. It is going through both houses of Parliament. We are discussing this with our American colleagues. The fact that the honourable member sought to take a selfie video on the islands does not change any of those facts.
Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Could the Minister please assure the House that international law will apply to Diego Garcia, either by way of the ownership or the use of Diego Garcia, either by our military or the Americans?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for the question. Of course, the UK government will abide by international law and will continue to do so.
The Minister, Wendy Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Labour's Chagos surrender is a shameful, unnecessary and reckless deal that leaves Britain weaker, poorer and less secure. This is not a legal necessity, it's a political choice made by a floundering Prime Minister, and it is British taxpayers who are left to pay the price. No other government would pay £35 billion to hand over its own sovereign territory and make its country less secure in the process. At a time when families are being squeezed, ministers are asking them to subsidise another country's budget, potentially funding tax cuts in Mauritius while taxes rise here at home. That's indefensible. So can the Minister confirm that no payments will be made under the treaty of the so-called strategic partnership unless and until ratification is fully complete? Because this is a national security crisis too. Diego Garcia is one of the most strategically vital military bases in the world, and yet ministers are pressing ahead before resolving the binding 1966 UK-US treaty, before addressing concerns raised by President Trump, and without guaranteeing that the lease can never collapse or be legally challenged. On UNCLOS, will he confirm that Article 298 provides an opt-out from compulsory dispute settlement for military activities, meaning this is a political choice, not an unavoidable legal trap? So I ask the government, will they suspend the bill until the legal position with the US is settled and any amendments have been scrutinised under CRAG? Will he confirm whether the Pelindaba Treaty would apply were Mauritius to take sovereignty? And if so, what ironclad safeguards protect our nuclear deterrent? And finally, what of the British Chagosians, some of them now on the islands? Can he guarantee there will be no forced removal and that their rights will be protected in full? Mr. Speaker, British sovereignty is not for sale, and this House should not be bounced into surrendering it.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, I would find the Conservative position more plausible had there not been 11 rounds of negotiations. The attempt from the other side, from both benches, to act as if though there was no issue here to be addressed, that the reason they started with 11 rounds was some sort of lack of focus. Well, if there was not an issue to address, I am not sure why you started, why honourable members on the benches opposite began the negotiations. I can assure the House, Mr. Speaker, that of course the passage of the treaty will go through the full process of Parliament in the usual way, and we are discussing these questions with the Americans in the usual way.
Grimsby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I say, risking the accusation of creeping, it's a great pity you aren't in charge of these negotiations. The deal we have come to, or are coming to, is inexplicable, both in principle and in costs to my constituents. And I very much doubt, at the time of the next general election, most Labour candidates, and indeed our manifesto, will point to the cost of £100 million a year and giving up ownership of these islands. Can I remind my honourable friend, and I'm sure he knows it off by heart, of page 120 of the Labour manifesto, which says, defending our security also means protecting the British overseas territories and Crown dependencies, including the Falklands and Gibraltar. Labour will always defend their sovereignty and right to self-determination. We haven't even consulted the Chagosians. Will my honourable friend not reconsider?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would not like to accept the connection being made between the British Indian Ocean territories and Gibraltar and the Falklands. We are four square behind the sovereignty of Gibraltar and the Falklands, who have repeatedly chosen to remain British, and long may it continue. So we are abiding by our manifesto commitments, Mr. Speaker. The issues around the continued operation of the base have been discussed many times in this chamber. They are being scrutinised in both chambers as the treaty goes through the full process that Parliament would expect, and that will continue.
Dr Alpington, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am acutely aware that this question comes in the aftermath of the Honourable Member for Clacton's attempted landing on the Chagos archipelago last week. And whilst I might admire the Honourable Member's audacity, I am deeply concerned that those actions trivialise what is indeed a deeply serious situation and potentially render the genuine grievances and injustices that Chagosians feel as a political backdrop to his social media feed. But I also have to acknowledge that the platform that the Honourable Member has only been created because of a vacuum that has been created by this government. Because the wheels have undoubtedly fallen off the government's negotiations. They failed to secure the support and consent of Chagosians. They seem now also to have lost the support of the President of the United States, and whilst any one of those things might be considered unfortunate, the combination of the two of them looks deeply careless. So can I ask the Minister, please, what is the status of the negotiations right now? What is the latest position of the United States? Will they also take on our very long-standing concerns about the rights of Chagosians? There is clearly not widespread consent here. Will they take on the points that we've been making in amendment after amendment and recognise that Chagosians have the right to self-determine their own future? And can he also accept our concerns about the finances to ensure that Britain isn't left as a leaseholder of these islands if a deal goes ahead without a sitting tenant?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson refers to amendments in the passage of the bill, and I'm sure he will understand why I will leave that to the Minister responsible for the bill conducting its passage. On the questions of the status of the negotiations, as I said, this is going through Parliament in the normal way. We are pausing in discussions with the United States, and those discussions continue.
Robert Shenrick.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the surrender of British sovereign territory began under my former party and has only been made worse by this Labour government. It is a damning indictment of the two old parties. The Minister represents the neighbouring town to me, and when he's not jet-setting, he presumably walks the same streets and talks to the same people. How can he hand on heart say that his constituents should spend up to £50 billion on this policy at a time when taxes are rising, bills are rising, and everyone in this country feels hard up?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I am appalled by the Honourable Member for Newark. Newark may well be a market town, but Lincoln is a city and has been for a very long time, and so I'd invite him to withdraw that remark. I don't receive a great deal of correspondence from constituents in Lincoln on this question. Mostly, my constituents in Lincoln prioritise Britain's national security. They understand, through our extensive history in Scampton, in Waddington, in Cranwell, of the importance that Lincolnshire plays in the UK's national security, and they would expect me and the rest of the government's ministers to prioritise that at all times.